everybody. It's Lyndalight. It's Friday night on June 26th, 2026. Look at that, 2626. So it's not going to be your normal podcast once again. I apologize. I'm not going to be bringing you the codes tonight. And I'm going to let you know right up front, this is going to be yet another call calling out the Department of Corrections in Pennsylvania tonight. So I'm going to be reading a little statement piece and then maybe having an open discussion. We'll see. We'll see how long it takes me to get through this. I just want to welcome everybody. If you're new to my channel, normally this is not the content that I like to carry, but there's a lot of injustice going on right now. And I think being a voice for the voiceless is an important thing to do and to step up when you can. And when you know, if you are that whistleblower, you are that inside person, or you do have firsthand knowledge and you have a platform where you can use your voice, then you do. And I'm choosing to use my voice now because of the things that are going on. So I've been deep in my rabbit hole. I've been researching. I've been writing articles like a mad woman, and it's actually rejuvenating because people like Nick Shirley and the people that are like the real heroes of the world that are exposing fraud and corruption, that's their genre. That's what they do for a living. And I'll start off by saying I'm not suicidal. No, no, no. So I can't afford to have that as my, lifelong career and thing that I'm doing because, well, first of all, um, it's not my genre. It's not what I'm choosing to do. I like teaching about the things that I know with the spiritual self-empowerment and spiritual development and getting to know your energy bodies and things like that. That's my normal genre. So anyway, we're gonna just diverge a little bit tonight again, and hopefully this will reach the right people. Because when you hear what I have to say, you'll understand. If you've been following this story along, it's still going on. My son is still um, in prison, and he was wrongfully imprisoned. We'll get to that in a second. I actually started a whole new blog after writing a series of articles about this now, so let's start a whole new blog. You don't mess with the most vulnerable population. You're going to have, at a certain point, you're going to hit a breaking point, and you're going to have a fight on your hands. And when you mess with a mother who's got nothing left to lose, pretty much you pissed off the wrong person here. So I'm going to read this little thing here and try to just take this into account if this was your loved one, if this was your child, or if this was your family member or a friend or family member's family member, like distant relative or whatever. Somebody that you know and you love and you care about. We got to stop treating people like they're subhuman, right? We don't like when other people treat us like that, right? So it's time to wake up and see the light here that all humans deserve a certain amount of dignity and respect. Okay, now I'm going to read this. Hopefully my pet peeve will be very clear, but I'm raising a lot of other points, and I really hope that the right people are listening and this reaches the right people because there's a lot of egregiousness and stuff going on. Okay, here we go. There are times when great changes are upon us as a species. And we are most definitely in the process of these changes right now on a global scale. The first topic of this new blog will take a very deep dive into the areas of social injustices committed every day in the name of corrections. Without having any personal knowledge or experience firsthand, when someone hears the term Department of Corrections, they tend to have this innate belief that something is being fixed, righted, or corrected. However, when this term is applied to jails, prisons, the slammer, and other such terms, people without first or even secondhand knowledge of what really goes on behind the locked doors have no idea how completely these experiences can break a lot of people. Also, how they're designed for failure of those that are under their custody, care, and treatment. Yes, you lose your freedoms and some rights and privileges when incarcerated. However, This should never include treating other humans as subhumans, ever. Let's try to remember that there are two types of people who get jailed, just to keep it very basic. You have violent and you have nonviolent. Let's also not mix in the totally innocent here for now, but for this particular article, let's just say violent and nonviolent. One needs to ask the very serious questions. Are correctional facilities designed to break people and keep them in on the inside? And if so, for what purpose does this serve? Does someone make a profit off of this? Who? How are all workers involved with the DOC on all levels paid? How about bonuses? How are they paid? Do the bonuses include anything other than time exchanged for money? Or are bonuses tied to certain head counts in any way? Do privately owned insurance companies make money on prisoners? If so, how are they involved in the prisoner population? At what costs? How is the money paid and to whom? How are kickbacks and bonuses paid and to whom and for what? How are head counts calculated? How are head counts calculated in to payouts by insurance companies? Are there certain rewards increasing payout structures based on head counts, similar to the payout structures for the mRNA COVID shots? Rewards for more numbers, payment structure type of thing? Is that what's going on with the DOC? Can we, the taxpayers, see the full accounting of every line item for every facility receiving our money? And when can we see every halfway house facility under the DOC's chain of command? When can we see their accounting books too? They, the Department of Corrections in Pennsylvania, need to be held accountable for every dollar if they're going to continue jailing people for simply having their legal medications on their person and making up their own laws to wrongfully imprison people while committing fraud. Oh, I'm going there. Do states actually take on the actual job of rehabilitating inmates while under their care and treatment? In a lot of cases, and under the jurisdiction of the DOCs across the country, with the funds allocated to them by taxpayers to use for such programs. I can tell you in Pennsylvania, that's a big fat no. Pardon me. Do the DOCs, the Department of Corrections in every state who receive taxpayer money account for every dollar? And if not, why? Why are the financials not available for every single year in an open accounting for the taxpayers to see what the costs are and where every single line item is every single year? Surely they keep books all the way up the line, right? Of course they do. Of course they do. We just haven't been allowed to see it. We taxpayers haven't been allowed to see where our money is going. And that right there should clue everyone in on what's probably going on. If you've got no thing to hide, then why not show what you've been doing with our money? Even bigger questions arise when you do know what's been going on. Are people making profits off the backs and the blood of some of our most vulnerable citizens who, in fact, need our help? I, for one, do not consent to re-jailing people who have a legal medication, but that medication is currently being discriminated against across the state. When it comes to flipping any system that's now rooted in greed and corruption, you have to start not only asking these questions, but also desensitizing common folks who typically would turn a blind eye and ear to such matters. I believe society as a whole has been conditioned to not want to take any deeper looks and immediately have the reaction that makes those with the stigma feel less than. That stops now. Crimes against humanity is not something I can stand for, nor is it something I will just sit by and watch continue without doing my very, very best to shine light upon it. Are we as a collective society doing those in need good, or are we doing them harm? You wouldn't be doing your due diligence if you didn't start to ask these questions. Now, let me be clear again. You have violent criminals and you have nonviolent criminals and offenders. They need to be separated from the beginning when entering the DOC's custody. As far as I know, the DOC is not a branch of government that can just make up laws that would benefit their agency only while stripping those in their custody of basic human rights and dignities, regardless of what they may say or have done in the past pertaining to this issue. For example, if someone declines to get a vaccination for any reason, that must be respected, irregardless of the facility worker's personal beliefs. Also, if that facility worker gets their feelings hurt because, or any facility worker gets their feelings hurt because the state police wouldn't do as requested, because it's against the law to jail somebody for simply having their legal medications, and they are in a position of power over others, such as the workers at Keystone, they should never be allowed to send someone to jail because the state police won't do your bidding. Making up fraud, a situation for a parole violation, and forcing someone to sign it under duress is actually a criminal act. Let's get something else very clear. Anyone who is prescribed medication, legal medication, should never be deprived of the ability or the right to have access to that medication as prescribed by a doctor. The PADOC, the Department of Corrections, has failed miserably. It has failed to uphold its duties and obligations to take proper care of those under their care for quite some time now. It was 2016 when it became legal in Pennsylvania as medication, medical marijuana. So they've been just on that one alone 10 years now. This needs to be addressed on a state and a national level. The first article, all right, so this was a new blog I was writing. This was the first article. The first article will focus on that topic because it is very clear the state of Pennsylvania has and is still depriving inmates of their basic human rights to legal medication that the state itself protects via selling legal medication for cash. My first question to the Department of Corrections is this. The state protects its citizens' rights to have access to their legally protected medications. Therefore, on what authority do you have to block access to any legal medication? Next question. I also have more Pennsylvania DOC. What gives you the authority and the right to decide what medications are allowed in jails and prisons? From where does your authority come? If you have medication time and dispersed medications such as Suboxone, which is Schedule 3 at the federal level, why is medical marijuana, which is also Schedule 3 at the federal level, any different? Suboxone is created by Big Pharma, and marijuana is a plant created by Mother Nature. Suboxone is paid for by insurance companies. Medical marijuana is not. I don't really think one needs to look very far to see what the discrepancies are here. I have come to a theory that the sleight of hand action, the look over here, don't you dare look over here type of distractions are at the root of why so many people have either ignored this problem or just walked away. And those who have tried to shed light on this in the past have been quietly put in their place by those whom are performing the sleight of hand distractions in the first place. I am not suicidal. Just putting that out there. I theorize that the deflections are meant to steer away those who take a gander from what is most likely a golden cash cow for anyone playing in this very dangerous game. Prove me wrong. It's my theory. I will link an article, actually, the link is already in the description box, to what is currently happening to my son right now. Nonviolent offender who keeps getting put back in on so-called parole violations, as decided by halfway houses operated by Keystone in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. If that isn't a conflict of interest right there, I don't know what is. But oh, there's even more conflicts. The parole officers not only work directly with Keystone, but they have their own private offices in that. Multiple parole officers have their own private office in that Keystone building, the halfway house. And they lied about it. Why lie if you've got nothing to hide? Why lie? Parole violations, or PVs, are created by the facility workers and or parole officers on paper so they can use them as an excuse for sending a person back to state prison who didn't commit any additional crimes. Don't believe me? Read the article about my son. All the details of what is currently happening to him right now, and then decide. If a random weekend worker at a Keystone facility can enforce a fake contraband excuse by first blocking a person's ability to use their legal medications, and then getting the parole officers to write on paper that this person was supposedly kicked out of the facility, even though he never was actually, then we're all in trouble here. The Keystone worker unsuccessfully tried to get the state police to put charges on my son, and they refused because the medical marijuana is a legal medication and my son is legal. Even his parole officer knows this, but she didn't care. That worker didn't like the fact, the facility worker didn't like the fact, and so he decided to rework it, which is fraud and falsifying documents, if you ask me. He falsified that, so that he said he was kicking my son out of the facility for contraband, which is also what the parole officer corrected me on after she lied about not having an office. Okay, that's all in the article. You can read about all of that. There's 3 articles written. I linked the 3rd one. Start with the 3rd one and work your way back if you're interested in this story. Okay, so on paper, it looks like he was kicked out for having contraband, even though he was never actually kicked out. They just forced him to sign a document under duress and told him he was going back to state prison. Medical marijuana is not contraband. Or else, if it is contraband, then the state of Pennsylvania is committing extortion on a massive scale. Which one is it? Which one? Either medical marijuana is not contraband, or the state is committing extortion. Because if it is contraband, then everybody that ever paid to have a legal medical prescription should get a refund immediately. Because if it's not legal and you can be jailed for it, we got a conflict here. There's a little conflict here. Something's not adding up, right? So I say good job on the state police for knowing what laws to protect. And that is access to your legal medication. No matter what your personal beliefs are, doesn't matter. No facility that has persons under their care and treatment can be allowed to discriminate against any medication that's legal just because they don't agree with it. Can't do that. that worker and the parole officer should be fired right away, as far as I'm concerned. And also criminal charges I wouldn't mind seeing in this case as well. If we start letting these thugs know that when they're committing crimes, they will be held accountable for them, then we will have far less abuses of nonviolent offenders at the very bottom levels, which is all over the place. It's like the basement floor of the swamp when you start looking down at these levels. It's disgusting. You should see the trays that they're forced to eat off of, from what I've heard. I haven't seen them, but maybe somebody will clean that up because they know a lawsuit's coming. So I'm just getting started. I have a plan to help the prisoners, both violent and nonviolent offenders, and I have a plan to help offset the unbelievably soaring cost the DOC claims are expenses taken from the taxpayers in their yearly budget requests. The largest agency in the Commonwealth is the Department of Corrections, and there are ways to make the department profitable legally and not at the expense of taxpayers, nor on the backs and the blood of the people entrusted to them under their supervision, care, and yes, their treatment. Nick Shirley made a 30-minute video I just found. He posted it back in February 2025, so a little more than a year ago. It shows you exactly how to make prisons actually work for everyone with true rehabilitative programs. It's 30 minutes. Go watch it. This is the plan El Salvador is successfully using and should be considered a blueprint for all other prisons with nonviolent criminals and offenders. I do have an addition to that plan, and it will bring profits in that will shortly offset taxpayers' contributions towards the DOC's annual budget, if only those in charge will listen. If you have medication time in any facility, then you must allow all legal medications as prescribed by a doctor without discrimination. Otherwise, it's extortion to issue medical marijuana prescriptions or MM cards paid by cash-paying people, customers, because even the doctor's visits are somehow not covered by health insurance companies. But why not? I'll let you use your critical thinking skills on that. I'm not taking on that problem today, but rather the must-be fraud in the PADOC, which needs to be exposed and seen by all. The numbers don't lie. Show us the numbers. I sign this as a very pissed off mother, tired of seeing the system take advantage of our most vulnerable folks. And I welcome comments and opinions as long as you're contributing something positive to the conversation. And to please share. You know what I want to do before we come over here? I want to get you guys that link for Nick Shirley, because this was a 30 minutes worth your time to see what can be done. And I don't want to hear that, oh, well, they have to want to be, they have to want help. A lot of them are, this or that, or drug addicts or this, or they want to be like, no, they just don't have any other options. You give them options, you watch what happens. This was like less than a year that this place has been operating. You guys need to see this. All right, so where should I put this? Let's put this first on, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to drop it in the comments first. Here. Nope, that's not going to work. All right, I'm going to put it in the description box, you guys. It's going to go in the description box. And you know what? A lot of people, they don't want to hear this. They don't want to hear anything about the Department of Corrections being corrupted. They don't want to hear about people getting paid off the backs of, our most vulnerable populations. They don't want to hear about drug addicts. They don't want to hear about homelessness. And it's because of that we're in this situation to begin with. It's because people don't want to hear it. They really don't. So this is my plea as a mother who really has nothing left else to lose. I mean, you pissed off the wrong person, and I'm going to make as much noise as I can until something gets done. I'm currently searching for an attorney or a lawyer. I'm on the search for the right champion. I have a goal, and it's going to help people. So, got to find a champion for my son. Somebody's got to be a champion, right? You got to start, you got to be that which you want to receive. So, I'm going to be the champion for my son, and maybe somebody will come in and help champion for both of us. And, who knows? Maybe Doge will come in and take care of the DOC. Maybe they already did. Maybe it's just a matter of some of us speaking up and saying we need change, becoming loud, becoming the voice for the voiceless. I don't know. Please share this in your groups. If you see this and it's a week from now, share it anyway. Don't assume that it's been taken care of, because a lot of these things fall on deaf ears. I can tell I'm talking in an echo chamber right now. The algorithms are just whacking me like a mole. You know what? I'm still standing. So that's all that matters, right? If as long as I can stand and I can speak, I will be that voice for the voiceless. I will command my energy and my authority over the land, the water, the air, the ether, the fire within me breathes freely, and I will express myself, and I will make as much noise as I can and as I need to shed light on this. So when something is wrong, it needs to be fixed. It has to be brought to the attention. Light has to shine where there's darkness. And the Pennsylvania DOC has got a lot of darkness all the way down to the bottom levels. And they know people don't talk about it because of the stigmas. They know. That's why they've gotten away with it for so long. So that needs to stop. We need to empower these folks. We need to help teach these folks. And I'm going to tell you again, in case it takes a little while and you forget to come back to get the link or something, I'm going to put the link down as the first comment in each one of these, and I'll put it to Nick's video on YouTube. But it was in February of 2025. So just scroll down, go to Nick Shirley, and then scroll down in his videos down to February 2025. He's put a lot of content out, so you have to scroll a little bit, but you'll see the prisoners are in bright yellow. So it's going to be hard to miss the thumbnail. So go check that out in the meantime. If you want to wait for me to put the link, I'll put the link, and that's good. And since I'm in an echo chamber right now, I think I'm going to sign off. We won't be having an open discussion except my discussion right now. Prove me wrong. Give me something to think about. Put something in the comments. Let me know how you feel. Let me know if you support truly rehabilitating these folks, or if you buy into the idea that since the taxpayers are paying all this money for these drug and alcohol programs, right? And then these programs are cattle calls for them to go in like at a check. They're cattle calls. They're cattle calls. It's ridiculous. Who knows how much money per head they're getting and circle jerking the money back to each other. It's ridiculous. That's just the drug and alcohol content alone. But when you get out and you're supposed to go into a recovery program, oh, don't even get me started on the recovery houses. That if somebody is in a recovery program, they shouldn't have to have the pressure of going out to get a job, especially if they're coming out of prison. They're coming out of prison, it's hard enough to get a job. And then you're going into a recovery house because you were an addict. Maybe you weren't in prison very long, but maybe you were an addict. Maybe you really need true help because while you're in prison, you weren't getting help. Maybe you were even getting drugs in prison from some of the correction officers who do bring them into the facilities. I think they've cracked down on a lot of that, to be honest with you, but I know that was going on a couple years ago. So, if somebody was not a drug addict and then they get into the system for stupid stuff or whatever, or they're a drug addict and they go into the system because of that, they need help. So how do you rehabilitate them? Oh, let's see. This is Pennsylvania Department of Corrections idea for their recovery houses. If someone's at a halfway house and they're begging for help, they're asking you for help, they don't want to use anymore. They're asking, please help me. Why would we not help them? We brag about it, not we, but Pennsylvania DOC, probably the Department of Health too, because I know they got their hands in all this too. But they brag about all these programs, all this assistance that they can give people. What services are you actually providing? NA and AA meetings are free for anybody. So why would you lump that into the program? No, going to a meeting in addition to a recovery or rehabilitative program, that's one thing, in addition. But you shouldn't be tapping into another network and lumping it into yours and then charging money, us taxpayers, for that. That's just a big no-no. That's wrong. No, 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 no. No, no, no. That's not true services. And I know because my son has been in and through the system at every possible level. So I know what I'm talking about. And I might not know everything, believe me. I know that too. I know I don't know. There's a lot that I don't know. But I'm asking questions because there's a lot that isn't wrong. There's a lot that's not meeting up. There's a lot that's not adding up. The numbers don't make sense. We don't have the numbers. Make them make sense. Show us every line item for that $140 million increase in budget, the highest ever, whatever, $3 billion that your agency gets, Department of Corrections and PA. That's a lot of money, especially since you just closed down 2 prisons. You're supposed to be saving $140 million, not getting an increase. No. And if you're getting an increase, any amount of money, we demand, we the people want to see open accounting. We want to see the books. We want to see the line items. We want to see the budget. We want to see it. And we have every right to see it. We call you out. Please share this. Please share this. Okay. And that is my rant for tonight. I love you guys. I'll see you next time. And hopefully the next podcast will be more uplifting, spiritually uplifting, not just calling out all the crap that's out there. Please send our champion. Take care, guys. Love you.